Imagine a tiny island isolated in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. A place where the streets once gleamed with luxury cars, where seafood feasts were a daily tradition and life seemed carefree and abundant. Welcome to Nauru, a land so small you could walk around it in just a few hours. But behind its peaceful shores lies a story of incredible wealth, stunning downfall, and lessons we can all learn from. In just a few short decades, this once thriving nation, known as the Kuwait of the Pacific, saw its riches disappear, leaving behind nothing but barren land and forgotten dreams. How did this happen? And what can we learn from the rise and fall of Nauru? Stay with us as we explore the history of this small island, its rise to riches, the mistakes that led to its decline, and the powerful lessons that echo far beyond its shores. This is the story of Nauru, and it's one you won't want to miss. Imagine a country so small that you could walk around it in just an afternoon. So isolated that only 200 tourists visit each year, fewer than the number of people who climb Mount Everest. This is Nauru. At just 21 square kilometers, it's one of the world's smallest countries, smaller than many major cities. There's no capital, no rivers, just one airport and one airline that operates limited flights. But for those who've been here, Nauru feels different. It's a country with a history, a proud people, and an even prouder past. The people of Nauru once possessed something very rare, a natural treasure buried beneath their feet. A treasure that would make this tiny island one of the wealthiest nations on Earth. But this precious resource would be the very thing that pulled the island into a devastating spiral. Thousands of years ago, seabirds left their mark on this island, their droppings accumulating to form thick layers of sediment. Little did anyone know, those layers contained something incredibly valuable: phosphate. Phosphate, an essential ingredient in fertilizer production, helped feed millions of people across the globe. But Nauru's people had no idea that the land beneath their feet held the key to unimaginable wealth. In the late 1800s, Western geologists arrived and made an astonishing discovery. Beneath this small island lay vast deposits of phosphate. It was a hidden treasure, one that would transform Nauru's future. Suddenly, Nauru became the world's white gold mine. Ships from Britain, Germany, and Australia came and went, loading up with phosphate to fuel global agriculture. In just a few decades, life in Nauru changed dramatically. GDP per capita soared, making it one of the wealthiest nations in the world. People didn't need to work, they lived off generous government allowances. Luxury cars and lavish mansions filled the island. Money seemed endless. Nauru's government even invested millions in properties abroad, luxury real estate in Sydney, Melbourne, London, and beyond. But as the money rolled in, some raised concerns. What will happen when the phosphate runs out? They asked. Why aren't we preparing for the future? But no one listened. Everyone was too busy enjoying the wealth. Then one day, the unthinkable happened. The phosphate ran out. Suddenly, everything collapsed. The money from the past became meaningless. The once pristine streets filled with luxury cars were now dotted with rusting, abandoned Cadillacs. The mansions stood empty, decaying with time. Nauru had depended on a single resource, and when that resource was gone, the island had nothing left. The country fell into bankruptcy. The government could no longer pay its debts. People who had once been millionaires found themselves penniless. Unemployment skyrocketed. The country had no industry, no land to farm, and no resources to fall back on. But the worst wasn't over. Nauru had more dire consequences to face.
As Nauru's economy crumbled, so did its environment. Once lush forests were completely stripped, freshwater lakes dried up, and the land itself became barren and scarred from years of phosphate mining. The ecosystem was destroyed beyond recognition. Nauru's people, once the wealthiest in the world, were now trapped in a nightmare of their own making. With no land to farm, no fresh water, and no natural food sources, they became reliant on imported, often unhealthy foods. The islanders turned to canned goods, fast food, and sugary drinks. This had devastating effects on public health. The obesity rate skyrocketed. 80% of Nauru's population became obese, the highest rate in the world. Over 40% developed type 2 diabetes. Life expectancy dropped drastically. From wealth to poverty, and from health to crisis, Nauru's story is a cautionary tale of a nation that lost everything. As the situation became more desperate, the government turned to a new way to survive. In 2001, Nauru agreed to become a detention center for refugees in exchange for financial aid from Australia. But this deal came at a cost. Nauru became a global pariah, known for its controversial treatment of detainees. Human rights organizations condemned the conditions in the detention centers. Nauru's reputation was forever tarnished, and the once proud nation found itself stuck in a cycle of dependency. The country's greatest tragedy was not just financial, but health-related. With no fresh food and little access to health care, the people of Nauru suffered. They were trapped in a cycle of poor health and bad habits. 80% of the population became obese, and diabetes rates soared. Families found themselves suffering from these diseases generation after generation. But all is not lost. Nauru's people have not given up. Slowly, they're starting to turn things around. Nutrition education programs are now being implemented. The younger generation is shifting toward healthier lifestyles. The government is working with international health organizations to raise awareness about the dangers of obesity and diabetes. Sports and physical activities are being promoted. Local schools are encouraging children to adopt better eating habits. Efforts are underway to regenerate the land and protect marine ecosystems. Coral reefs are being restored. Water filtration projects are helping to reduce dependence on imports. While Nauru still faces significant challenges, the signs of hope are real. So, what can we learn from Nauru's story? Nauru's tragedy isn't just a story of one small island, it's a warning to the entire world. The lesson is clear: resources are finite, and without long-term planning, even the wealthiest nations can collapse. Nauru's rapid rise and fall show us that wealth isn't enough to guarantee stability. If we don't protect the environment, it can all vanish, leaving nothing but scars. But the story of Nauru also offers hope. They haven't given up. Despite their challenges, they are trying to rebuild, and they are learning from their mistakes. This is a lesson we all need to take to heart. The world is facing similar crises: overexploitation of resources, environmental destruction, and rising inequality. If we don't change our ways, we may be headed down the same path as Nauru. We've journeyed through Nauru's rise to wealth, its rapid fall from grace, and its ongoing struggle to recover. From one of the richest nations in the world to a place marked by environmental destruction and health crises, Nauru's story is a stark reminder of how fragile prosperity can be without planning for the future. But Nauru isn't giving up. Despite the damage, they're working to rebuild, focusing on sustainable practices, environmental restoration, and healthier lifestyles for future generations. While the road ahead is long, the island's resilience and determination to learn from past mistakes are shining through. Nauru's story is not just a tale of a small island, it's a cautionary tale for us all. As we watch the world around us change, we must remember that resources are finite, wealth doesn't last without care, and the environment is our greatest responsibility. The question now is, will we learn from Nauru? Can we shift our focus to sustainability and long-term thinking before it's too late? The future of the planet depends on the choices we make today. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue to explore, learn, and grow together. Until next time.